Hi everyone, good evening.
Good evening.
All right, my name is Deitrah Taylor. I'm the consulting historian here at the Douglas Theater. Right now I'm working on a project through the Douglas Archives, connecting the 1920s archival material over at Washington Memorial Library with the archives that we have here in-house for the past 30 or so years of the Douglas being restored. So looking to do a timeline project and do maybe some oral history things about the Douglas. And I helped curate this exhibit with Jeffrey Bruce, so over at the Tubman. So really proud and happy to have this opportunity.
Hello everybody, my name is Marques Redd. I am originally from Macon, Georgia, but currently based in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, here representing the Redd Family Collection of Black Art. I'm currently a multimedia artist and independent scholar.
All right, so we just have a few questions since this is the Redd Family Art Collection that this exhibit is based upon. We're going to have a conversation about the collection and the exhibit, the family, and their history with artwork. And then we're going to go into the toast for Mr. Douglas. So first of all, we wanted to know kind of what inspired you and your family to focus the exhibit on these three historic women, Harriet Tubman, Ruth Hartley Mosley, and our own Fanny Appling Douglas.
Yes, thank you for the question. And I will start by saying that this exhibit is really based on trying to pay tribute to women who have had an outsized impact in Macon, particularly through the institutions that have been named after them. And we all know the Harriet Tubman Museum, this theater that we're in now, the Douglas Theater, and the Ruth Hartley Mosley Center. There are a lot of many ways in which these institutions have been a cornerstone for Black culture in Macon, Georgia. And they've had a really important personal significance for my family as well. And the Ruth Hartley Mosley Center was one of the first places that we exhibited art back in the early 90s. My sister, Marquita Sams, who's here, has danced here at the Douglas Theater, but also at the Tubman. We took summer classes, the summer program at the Tubman when we were younger. So really this is a tribute to those institutions and to the women who have or lent their names to them.
All right, great, thank you. So can you share a little bit more about the journey of the Redd Family Art Collection of Black art from its inception to now, and a little bit about your work over at the Rainbow Serpent Collective?
Sure. So I will say this journey really started in the 80s when my parents, Mel Jeannie and Vernon Redd, they were really inspired by a passion for activism, for art, and for Black culture. They started collecting, and soon enough, by 1990, they were going around Macon and showing art in different places. I mean, so they would show up at cultural centers, at high schools, at churches, and really evangelizing about the importance of Black culture and Black art. And so that led to them opening a physical gallery, Miracles Fine Art Gallery, in 1991. And that blossomed from an original location in Bloomfield to a house on Pursley Street, down the street from Little Richard's house. And unfortunately, that gallery closed in '96 just due to personal family challenges, health challenges. But recently, we decided after 20 years that it was time to revive the collection, bring it back to Macon, and try to contribute again to the rich, vibrant life of the culture here. So I would say, over the pandemic, I would say it was a really big turning point for me personally, because when we were all in the house, we all had to stay in, could not go out. That's when I decided that I would become a full-time artist. And really drawing on being surrounded by this from such a young age, I think that really pushed me to take that leap. And so I told my family then what I had planned, and that we needed to also revive our collection, because it had just been, we had pieces, really about 800 pieces just in boxes, in the garage, in the attic, just kind of collecting dust. So I was like, it's time, it's been some decades, so let's get it going again. So I brought them up to Pittsburgh for a celebration of Juneteenth, and we displayed the art for the first time in about 25, 26 years there. Then we participated here in the Juneteenth celebration that happened in 2023. And now this is our first installation in a cultural institution here in Macon since 1996. And so we're happy to be partnering with the Douglas to make that happen.
Awesome, wonderful. And give it up for that. And then you also mentioned you're a filmmaker with the Rainbow Serpent Collective.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
So in Pittsburgh now, I am a multimedia artist. I work in a lot of different genres. We've released a film. We're working on the second and third film right now, but we've also done live performance, sculpture, public art installations, and I have developed the Rainbow Serpent Collective, which is a group of artists. We're working at the intersection of emerging technologies like spatial augmented reality, artificial intelligence, and traditional African cosmologies, looking at the history of African spirituality from West Africa, places like Nigeria, Mali, and looking at cultural influences from ancient Egypt as well. So we're bridging all of these different influences from technology to African cosmologies and thinking about specifically how we can push Black LGBT culture forward. So that's the work that I do with Rainbow Serpent.
Thank you. All right. So we've talked about how, the Douglas opened in the late 90s and your parents and this artwork, was around, and then it had kind of a silent period. So how has the landscape of Black art and culture here and cultural preservation changed since the family started doing this work to now?
Well, a lot has changed in the sphere of Black art and the sphere of Black art collecting. I mean, one important thing is social media. All of the platforms that exist now, Facebook, Instagram, et cetera, did not exist in the 90s. So we are able to push out a message about Black art more intensely, more powerfully, and we can reach a wider audience. And there are also more technologies available about that allow us to digitize the art. So we hired a photographer recently, and we took pictures of all 800 items in the collection, and now we're in the process of loading them onto a website. And I think also really the spirit and the cachet of collecting Black art has changed as well. I mean, you have famous people like Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats that are now very prominent Black art collectors and pushing it into pop culture. And so we even have famous rappers like Jay-Z now talking about collecting art. So I think people are starting to appreciate the legacy and the heritage of Black art differently. And we have a lot more people in many different communities around the country who are interested in investing in art and building collections of their own.
Great. So last question. The exhibit is significant for the cultural aspect here in Macon. We're on a significant day, the 154th birthday of Charles Henry Douglas. How do you see this exhibit, this art collectors like your family, Macon, Georgia in general, how do you see all of that influencing the future projects, future artists, people who are coming into this theater?
Perfect. No, that's a great question. Well, I think there are a lot of plans that we have for this collection, and we hope that it can be a part of a larger conversation, be part of a larger movement to continue to provide infrastructural support for Black art. And we hope that we inspire many different generations, and we see my niece here, Marjani. So we even have a new generation that we're introducing to Black art, our cultural traditions, our heritage, and we're hoping that it will inspire people to develop their own artistic talents and gifts, to learn more about the history of what has happened here in this space. And so we're hoping that we can expand the collection and do more community engagement and actually show more of the work in venues like this.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Are there any questions?
Yes, so this is the section that we usually do our Q&A. And so as you go in, it has me thinking, and I do have a question. And the question is, how can organizations like the Douglas Theater, or like the Tubman, or like the Ruth Hartley Mosley, what can we do to help elevate and push this forward? Because I think that everybody needs to see and embrace what's here. But sometimes when you think about it as a serve and return, we as organizations, we think about the institution, But I want to look at it as how can we provide either access or space or to help elevate, opening up doors, you know. How do you see, what do we need to be doing more of, like as an organization, especially a Black institution at that? What can we do more of to bring in pieces like this?
Well, that's a great question. Well, I don't think it's necessarily my place to tell you how to be the director here. But I do think that having events like this really opens a chain of communication and really can start a domino effect. I mean, so we're hoping that this will catalyze other events. And I think we also want to raise awareness about how important these institutions are. Just in our history in this city in particular, without having institutions, powerful institutions, our community is really at a disadvantage. And all three of them, the museum, the Mosley Center, this theater, have provided a space for new voices to emerge. I mean, so we know Otis Redding was one of the people who was discovered here. We have a picture, a print of him on the wall dedicated to Fanny Douglas. So we know that you have to have powerful spaces and institutions for culture to have a home, to have a place to live. And we need those voices to help us think about our place in this world, our place in this community. So I think it's really about opening up the doors and also having awareness and community awareness about the desperate need to support these kinds of places and to continue to build with them and to preserve their history.
Thank you, thank you.
Mine is like maybe not a question, sir, but like a comment to what you just made, being so that I'm so much into, I'm a retired educator myself, born and reared in Bibb County, but now in the Atlanta area, the Redd family is dear to me. But I was saying, when Marques was talking, I was thinking about this. You said, what else can organizations and built places like the Douglas? I suggest reach out to the school system and have younger children realize what Black art is about by having them take field trips to view art shows such as this. Because in my years coming up in Macon, Georgia, over Maple Street and down over Levita Drive and L Street, I didn't know a lot of this. This, and then hearing Marques saying, and then Marques telling us, he grew up with this. That's awesome for a Black young man to be able to say this. In the school system, and I'm still, believe it or not, I'll be 75 this year, but I know you believe it. But in the meantime, so what I'm saying is, I still work part-time in the school system over in Griffin, Georgia, and it's an impoverished area. The children don't know what pictures like this and what this type of art means. And when I bring certain things into them, just my 4 days a week that I work about 3 or 4 hours, I try to expose them. But if you would offer, I'm very detailed, you can tell them that in making sure that these children can get it, even since the parents aren't, perhaps if you offer field trips so the teachers can bring busloads of children to view things of this nature with explanations to know what art is about so they can appreciate and develop an appreciation at an early age. You may have more Redd families.
Gotcha. And that's duly noted, and I received that. And just a response, and then we'll go to the question here. And you're absolutely right. And when you said that it automatically gave an epiphany, we as an organization, we do have an organizational budget. So sponsoring field trips, because a lot of times impoverished or school districts that are low income or high low income areas, the children or the schools can't afford the field trips and the buses, but we can. And so all you have to do is bring them here. So I see what you're saying. I'm tracking with you, my sister. About 75, you're a young sister. And I'm 50. So that's all right. Look at the Lord. Touch your neighbor. All right.
I just want to say thank you to the Redd family for what y'all do in the community. You know, even as far back as 5 years ago when we had Lord Richard up at, and the very last time I saw him in person, my cousin, y'all had a huge contingency of people up at Fisk. So I thank you first for that. That's the very first thing I want to say. Second thing is, I hope the Redd collection goes into some space here in Macon. Because when kids turn, whether it be the Douglas here, the Tubman, wherever it may be, we just need to inundate the city with this type of history.
Yes.
And so I appreciate y'all, and I hope if we can help y'all find a space or what we need to do to make sure this goes a solidified space, so to speak.
Yes.
And but once again, thank you all for what y'all do in the community. Okay.
All right, we have a question over here. Ms.
Washington.
Ms. Washington.
I'm a retired pre-K teacher. I have a degree in art education. And you did say that you are an artist, right?
Yes.
Do you have one on the wall that you did yourself?
No, I don't, but
Why not?
my sister does actually. She has these two
Your
paintings.
sister's an artist too.
She's right here on the front row, Marquita Sands.
Which one did you make? The two women, the yellow one, and those two right there?
Yes.
They're excellent. I like, one looks like you. Is your daughter? Okay, I'm an artist. A sculptor was that's what I specialize in. But I love art. I go to galleries everywhere. I've even been to London. I mean, I really, I go to all of them. Whenever I'm traveling, I always go to an art museum. I was in the Tubman one yesterday. Excellent. That's a display of black art that every black citizen in Macon need to stop in there and look. I've been in all kinds of museums, and I couldn't believe it. And I walked by that museum many times. My father's from here, and as a little girl like her, I used to be with my daddy. I never went in there. It wasn't there then. It wasn't there then. But I am so glad that I came in there yesterday, and I'm so glad I came in here today. Because I love art, I do, and I have a collection too. You know, I've got the front, that one, and the lady, the black lady like that. I seen her, another artist depicted just like that, and I purchased it at an art show in a park, a little small city park. I was collecting all of it. I looked at the front, I had that one. But I had a dynamite collection of black art. I really, my whole house, all black art.
Whole house, black art, ain't it? The whole house, not half for it, the whole house. And some of it yours, and that's amazing. She said the whole, not half, but the whole. Thank you, Ms. Washington. And you know, and these, and we appreciate
You know what,
that.
I would say that, it's a gift
It is,
from God.
it is, it is. And I agree with you, I concur.
You don't have to have a degree.
I
That little
concur.
girl right there, she can start in pre-K
Mm-hmm,
and draw anything she loves.
I love
She got
it.
good teeth. I don't know how she is, but those were the ones that I first started.
The babies,
And they had art class.
that's amazing.
Every day, they just
That's
started.
amazing. And you're right, you're hitting some valid points about, you know, the next generation. How do we inspire the next
You start right
generation?
there.
And we love that, and for me, what it does is, when I see that people can dialogue and it give you a booster shot, or it generates these feelings in you, this excitement, these are just some great things. So we know that we're on the right path. When we say come out and enjoy this exhibit and things like this. So we got for one more question, and then I'm gonna have our board member come up, say a few things about the 154 anniversary, about the scholarship that we have and all of that. And we're gonna definitely thank. And before I do that, is there any more questions? We have one more question. You have a question?
I think that's
Okay.
I'm actually not sure how to phrase it, but when you talked about the Basquiat and Jay-Z, can you hear me? Okay, so I'm not sure how to phrase the question, but when you talked about Jay-Z and Swiss Beats and Alicia Keys, can you talk a little bit to value, like how art creates value or how you determine value, both? Because I think I've seen some of these pieces like on TV. I know some of them are like renowned. But can you talk about how value is contributed to art and or how it is
that's a good
created
question.
when it talks about money?
No, that's a really good question. That's a really good question.
I can answer that. Oh, we should do right.
Yeah, we did that.
So I would say one criterion that goes into determinations of value would be historical significance. So I would say a picture like the one in the corner of the funeral procession is pretty famous because it was seen on The Cosby Show. So because of that background and the deep familiarity that it has across all different communities around the country, I think that's elevated the profile of it. You could also think about emotional impact of a particular work and how much it goes against conventions of the time or how much it really pushes out into a radical new area of expression. So I would even say something like maybe this William Tolliver piece here with the family, where you can see these kind of interesting geometrical shapes, almost some influence of traditional African statuary, some influence from, let's say, the Picasso, Cubism kinds of movements in the 1920s and 30s. So those kinds of influences and engagements with art history would also really elevate the value of a piece as well. And then also how rare a piece is. I mean, so sometimes you have originals versus prints. I mean, so of course, if it's a one-of-one or if it's signed, that also increases and elevates the value as well. So I would say looking at those kinds of issues, so things like historical context, popularity, emotional impact, and just the engagement with larger art history.
Awesome. So before we invite our board member up just to talk about the 154th anniversary, does anyone else in the Redd family want to add any comments, anything to say? Mel, Quita, you want to say? Okay, there you go.
I just want to say thank you to the Douglas for giving us the opportunity to display our art. As has been mentioned before, it has just been sitting, so we are thrilled to have people view it, and we hope that you find enjoyment in viewing it. So just thank you to the Douglas.
All right. Well, we say thank you to the, I think the microphone went out, but we say thank you to the Redd family and to the Rainbow Serpent for bringing this and just partnering with us. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to turn more outward here at the Douglas and provide those spaces, those platforms where artists and creatives can come in and share. Because it's about sharing your story. Can't nobody tell your story, share your story like you can. I can't tell it. Your mama can't tell us, and the mama you won't tell half of it when I was born. I can tell the part when I'm 20 on up. But it's just so important.
Let me just thank everyone here for coming out tonight, too.
Yes.
Because we appreciate your support and your love of art. So again, thanks to all of you who came out tonight.
Yes. Yes.